Hello again, economics students. I hope these videos are helping you to feel confident going into SACs and eventually exams. We're going to do another question relating to markets when we put demand and supply together, and this is 1.4 on your economics side. So here's the question. Explain how an increase in the price of a PlayStation controller would affect the market for PlayStation consoles. That's the first part, and then we need to illustrate it on a demand and supply diagram. Pretty standard question for microeconomics. So there's some change in a demand and supply factor. You should be thinking what that is in this question, and then explain what happens and illustrate it on a demand and supply curve. So first, we have an explain up here. Now you should be thinking straight away that this means to show the cause and effect. Okay, there's going to be some change and you need to explain how it affects some other variable or some other factor elsewhere. Now, the cause is that there's an increase in the price of a PlayStation controller. Even if you don't know that controllers and consoles are complements, it has it here for you in brackets. So it wouldn't actually matter which two pairs of complements they used, but you need a controller. You can't use the controller without a console. You can't use the console without a controller. So they're sold separately, consumed together. And our factor that has changed, or our cause, is an increase in the price of this complement. And we need to explain how it would affect the market for the second complement, which is the console. Now, whenever you get asked about the impact or the effect on the market, really you're being asked what happens to price on the y-axis and what happens to Q on the x-axis. All right. Now, I would say because there's 4 marks on offer, this first part is worth 2 marks. We'll split it down the middle, and then we need to illustrate it on a demand and supply diagram, which is at minimum worth 2 marks. So it has to be 2 and 2 to get you 4 marks. All right, let's go through this in a little bit of detail. So 1 for demonstrating an understanding of the demand factor. So in this case, it's the price of a complement, but it could be anything. It could be consumer confidence, it could be discretionary income, it could be a change in interest rates, you name it. And you need to be able to explain or demonstrate an understanding of how that would impact the demand curve. All right. Then from there, like I just said, you need to be able to explain the impact on the overall market, and make sure you get the market right. It's the market for consoles that we're being asked about. And again, that just means price or quantity. What happens to price? What happens to quantity? Then we need to illustrate. You'll get 1 mark for correctly drawing a demand and supply curve, and then 1 mark for shifting it to the correctly. Okay, make sure it's fully labeled. All right, so let's have a go at this. Let's do the written part first. So firstly, we want to say, well, an increase in the price of a complement will increase the overall cost of the PlayStation experience, and it will shift the demand curve to the left. We're looking for that shift to the left. Now, one thing I've done here, which I think you should do, is that I've just put a little definition of what a complement is in parentheses, or just brackets. So I haven't disturbed my writing, I haven't defined it, I haven't made a really clunky sentence. I've just kept going. An increase in the price of a complement, open brackets, consumed together but purchased separately, closed brackets. So all that does is just demonstrate a little bit of a deeper understanding to your teacher and to the examiner. And I don't think it costs too much time. All right, so I would do this for any key terms, just a mini definition. The second mark there is to show that the shift will decrease the price of the PlayStation and decrease the quantity traded. So that should say consoles. So decrease the quantity of consoles traded and decrease the price of consoles. All right, that's our effect. Okay, what else can we do? I don't think we need to do much more in this one, but if you wanted to beef it up, you'd say the reason the demand curve is shift to the left is because consumers are less willing and able to consume at each price. And another really good thing here is we can add, particularly when we're drawing a demand and supply diagram, we can actually reference that demand and supply diagram. So if we're saying there's a decrease in quantity, well, tell us where that, or show us where that is on the demand and supply diagram. It's from Q to Q1, and the price decreasing is from P to P1. Could have even had E to E1 there as well. All right, let's illustrate this. Pause for a second, tell me or think to yourself what needs to go on this demand and supply diagram. Firstly, we need to make sure we're looking at the right market, so it needs to be labeled PlayStation consoles. Particularly when we're looking at more than one market, consoles and controllers, you need to be showing that your teacher and your examiner which market are you illustrating. The second thing is we need to label our supply and demand curves. we're going to see that we're going to be consistent with our labeling. So we've gone from D to D1, which is E to E1, equilibrium, and P to P1, Q to Q1. We also need to label our axes, so price and quantity. And I could do one more thing here if I'm being pedantic, which is to actually show, just make sure there's not a shadow of a doubt, all these movements as well. Okay, the arrows will help. All right, hopefully that helps. As I said, it's a pretty standard question, and you can mix it up by just changing the demand factor. All right, bye for now.